Everyone talks about the light, the bliss, the energy rising like a snake through the spine, unlocking dormant powers, gifting divine insight. But almost no one talks about the fear, the chaos, the raw, unfiltered disruption that comes before the light. Because real Kundalini doesn't arrive with peace, it arrives with a storm. And deep down, you know that. That's why you've hesitated, why you've researched but never practiced, why you've watched hours of videos but never sat with the energy itself. You say you want awakening, but you fear what it will destroy. And here's the truth. Kundalini isn't dangerous. Your attachment to who you think you are is. Because this energy isn't here to validate you. It's here to dismantle you, to unmask every illusion, to strip every layer of false identity, to burn through the noise you've been calling you. And that's terrifying, not because of pain, but because of clarity. Clarity that shows you the job, the relationship, the patterns, the persona. All of it was scaffolding. Beautiful, functional, protective, but never truly you. And when Kundalini rises, it doesn't ask for permission. It erupts. You feel pressure in the spine, vibration in the skull, heat that makes no medical sense, visions you didn't summon, memories you never processed. This is not a side effect. This is the point. Because Kundalini isn't here to comfort your identity. It's here to reveal your essence. And essence doesn't play by ego's rules. So why do most fear Kundalini? Because it forces you to feel everything. The suppressed grief, the hidden rage, the unbearable longing. You've spent your whole life trying to control your reality. But Kundalini, it shows you that control was never real, only resistance. And resistance is what feeds fear. Kundalini doesn't rise because you chant long enough. It rises when you stop running from what's inside you. This isn't energy for the curious. It's for the committed, for those willing to feel what they've been trained to numb. Because when Kundalini activates, it doesn't just move energy, it moves your identity. Everything that was unconscious begins to surface. The trauma, the stories, the ego armor you spent years perfecting. Gone. You feel like you're dying, because in a way, you are. The false you, the one built from expectation, culture, fear, starts to collapse. And you call it overwhelming. But it's not. It's overloading. Because your nervous system wasn't taught to handle truth. You were taught to obey, to perform, to survive. But Kundalini has no interest in survival. It's a force of transformation, and transformation requires friction. The snake doesn't rise until the old skin tightens. You start to shake. You start to cry. You laugh without reason. You panic because you feel everything all at once. That's not dysfunction. That's initiation. You are not broken. You are finally becoming aware. And here's what they won't tell you. Kundalini isn't activated through a trendy meditation. It awakens through surrender. When you stop trying to feel spiritual and start allowing yourself to feel real. Because reality, raw, unfiltered, beyond the mask, is the only place Kundalini will meet you. And when it does, you stop chasing visions. You start becoming the vision itself. But this path is not for tourists. You don't visit awakening. You live it. You burn in it. And that fire either scares you, or for the first time, you feel like you finally belong in it. What you fear is not Kundalini. What you fear is losing the version of you that never knew her. Because when this energy rises, it brings light into the darkest corners of your being. It makes numbness impossible. It dissolves lies you didn't even know you were telling. You've been taught to heal gently, to grow safely, to evolve politely. Kundalini doesn't care. She erupts. Not to punish, to purify. You'll question your thoughts. You'll see patterns repeating like echoes. You'll wonder if you're going crazy, but you're not. You're becoming clear. Because clarity, real clarity, is not always pleasant. It's often brutal, but it's honest. And the fear you feel? It's the ego unraveling. Your fear is the old shell realizing it's about to crack. And in that crack, your true self begins to breathe. But you've been conditioned to flinch at the first sign of intensity, to medicate instead of meditate, to buffer instead of break through. That's why most never meet Kundalini. They run at the first ripple. They chase only what's love and light. But this path, this serpent, she brings the shadows too. Because you can't awaken half of yourself. You either rise fully, or you repeat the loop. And here's what most spiritual teachers won't say. Kundalini doesn't need a guru. She needs space, stillness, presence, the willingness to feel without flinching. And once she moves, you begin to dream vividly. You see symbols. You feel energy in your hands, your breath, your spine. You sense time differently. You speak less, but carry more truth in every word. You don't just know something's changed. You are the change. If this feels like something you've known deep inside but couldn't explain, Then hit subscribe and tap the bell. This isn't motivation, this is memory, and we're just getting started. You were never taught how to hold power, only how to fear it. From school to religion to media, you were trained to associate intensity with danger, emotion with weakness, stillness with laziness, energy with too much. So when Kundalini begins to rise, your conditioning kicks in. You panic, you tighten, you try to label it, control it, suppress it. But Kundalini can't be suppressed. She can only be ignored until your body can't ignore her anymore. And that's when the symptoms start. Sudden heat, buzzing in the spine, pressure in the skull, random surges of grief, rage, bliss. You Google it, you think you're sick, but you're not. You're opening. You see, the spine isn't just support, it's your antenna. Each vertebra is a station, each chakra a transmitter. And Kundalini? She tunes the signal. She clears blockages, burns outdated coding, rewrites how energy flows through you. That's why it's scary, because you're not just changing your mind, you're changing your wiring. This is what ancient yogis meant when they warned that Kundalini without preparation can be destabilizing. They didn't mean don't try. They meant don't approach this like a tourist, because this is sacred fire, not to worship blindly, but to walk through consciously. And once you walk through it, your energy field changes, your nervous system calibrates, you vibrate on a frequency that makes small talk unbearable and truth magnetic. You begin to attract what matches your depth. You begin to shed what never aligned. And you stop seeking safety in the external, because your center becomes undeniable. You've been taught to ascend, to rise, to reach for the crown. But what if Kundalini doesn't rise because of reaching, but because of rooting? Because the serpent doesn't climb until it coils deep into the ground, into your shadow, your ancestry, your pain. This is what no one wants to hear. The real Kundalini process doesn't start in the third eye. It starts in the wound. And if you bypass that wound with affirmations and filters, you'll never reach the fire. You'll chase smoke, never knowing where it came from. But when you sit with it, when you let the body tremble, when you let the rage move, when you let the grief be seen, something starts to shift. You're not purging to be holy, you're clearing space to be whole. Because Kundalini doesn't want perfection. She wants capacity. Capacity to feel, to hold contradictions, to stand in chaos without collapsing. And when you develop that capacity, the energy starts to flow, not in a straight line, not like lightning, more like rhythm, like breath, like remembering. You begin to sense movement during meditation. You feel a subtle pulse behind your spine. You dream in symbols. You speak with less effort, but more weight. Your intuition sharpens. Your body becomes a compass. And suddenly, you're not following a path. You are the path. You stop needing signs, because you've become the signal. But be clear, this isn't glamorous. It's not insta-spirituality. It's rewiring your entire system to carry more voltage. And that voltage will test you. It'll push you. It'll stretch you until there's no mask left to wear. And in that rawness, that nakedness of spirit, you'll feel something ancient return. This is what they never wanted you to remember, that Kundalini isn't reserved for monks, gurus, or mystics. It's not locked away in temples or texts. It's in you, right now, waiting, not for rituals, not for credentials, just for your willingness. Willingness to feel deeply, to shed your old skin, to stop fearing your own aliveness. Because that's the real fear, not the energy, not the symptoms. You fear who you'll become when nothing is left to hide behind, when your excuses dissolve, when your persona cracks, when your raw self stands in front of the fire and says, "I'm still here." That's what Kundalini does. She strips you, then rebuilds you, not into something better, into something true. And once you touch that, you don't go back to who you were. You can't. Because the illusion loses grip, the noise fades, and the quiet becomes power. Your walk changes, your tone changes, your presence expands without trying. People notice. They won't know what changed, but they'll feel it. And here's where the choice returns. Do you run from the rising, or do you breathe into it again and again until the fear becomes fuel? Because the energy is rising now, everywhere, in the collective, in the earth, in you. And the only question left is this. If you stopped fearing the energy inside you, what would you finally be capable of? Drop your answer in the comments. Let others feel what awakening sounds like when it speaks from within.